Perfect fit closets. Using the 2020 design program, we'll show you how to create a variance using a 1-inch space or greater variance and how to use fillers. I have my 2020 platform open and I have a reach-in closet with a tall module in place on my split screen. You'll see that on the top view, I have a return wall, and the return wall is 8 inches. And I've also got my depth set at 24 inches, and my width is 100 inches. Some reach-in closets have a return wall, and some do not. So I'm just showing different types of examples. I've also got a 14-inch deep module. So when would we use a variance that's 1 inch or greater? We spoke about the previous video, so please refer back to our DLIT portal if we want to use the commonly used variance of a 1/4 inch. Now, when do we want to use a 1-inch space or greater? I have my module in the middle, and this time I'm going to add a module to make it a 1 1/4 inch variance off the left wall. So I'll make a note that I'm going to have a 1 1/4 inch variance on the left wall. That's what I'm going to do right now. To add my 1 1/4 inch variance, I'm going to use the stretchable module. Stretchable, also formerly known as single, can fill in the gap. The regular modules, you advise the program the exact width that you'd like. I'm going to left click my tall module stretchable, left click, drag it into the elevation view. I'm still holding my mouse button down. I'm going to wait till I see my magnet. I see my magnet, go to my farthest working left, right about here, and let go of my mouse. As soon as I do that, a new dialog box appears. I'm going to right click on the illustration so I can see the textured lines. I'll keep it at default 83/15, keeping it at default at 14 inches deep. And I'm going to subtract the panel on the right-hand side so I can share the panel. All panels can be shared if, and depending on the application, if it's the same depth. I do want a toe kick and a top shelf and a bottom shelf. And I'm going to select OK. And in my placement zone, I'm going to delete the placement zone and I'm going to drop it 1 1/4 inches. I can type in 1.25, or I can type in 1 space 1/4. I'm going to hit enter to have 1.25 inches space, right click and resize width. Go over the existing panel, left click once, and you can see I have my 1 1/4 inch variance. I'm also going to do the same thing on the right-hand side. I'm going to take my tall module stretchable, drag it in. Once I see my magnet, I'm going to go to my farthest working left, right about here, and let go of my mouse. I'll keep it there. Right click the illustration. We're going to keep it 83/15, and I'm going to make this 1 1/4 inch variance on the right hand side. This time, instead of typing in 1.25, I typed in 1 space 1/4. Subtract the panel on the left hand side, because I'm going to share the existing panel. We'll select on OK, and working from left to right, left click once, go all the way past the area, left click again. And I've got my 1 1/4 inch variance off my right side. And now also to my left. Now, when would I use different types of variance? So I would use a 1 1/4 inch variance if I was having cabinet doors. This wouldn't apply, obviously, because I have my return wall. So let's go ahead and just delete this wall here, just for a moment here. Right click, properties. And I want to select wall 4, I believe it is. Yes, so it's wall 4 that I want to delete. I'm going to click on cancel. To delete the wall, I can just right click on the wall itself. Go to my wall group. I will select wall group 4 and left click delete. So when would I use 1 1/4 inch variance? Well, if I were to add a door. So if I'm going to go ahead and add a part and a door, I'm going to add a C door, drag into my elevation. Once I see my magnet, let go of my mouse. And I'm going to go ahead and drop in my door here. Okay, now I've seen my magnet, I like going the mouse, and we're going to drop in a door here. Because the doors have a 105-degree opening, I'll make a note here. Doors for closets has a 105-degree opening hinge. Since I have a 105-degree opening hinge that comes standard, very similar to kitchens, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to grab my annotate. The door itself, when we open the door this way, it's actually going to open up very similar to this. It's going to go past the 90 degrees and open up a little further. So therefore, I want to create a little bit of a variance. So therefore, 1¼ inch variance is the absolute minimum. I can certainly create a 2-inch variance or greater, and this holds true for a lot of kitchen companies. But because with closets, we're dealing with a tighter space and they want to utilize and maximize the space, it might be beneficial to add 1¼ to maximize the space. So 1¼ inch variance off the left-hand side whenever I put doors. If I put this flush to the left wall, or I make this 1 inch or less, or even a 1/4 inch variance, the door is going to hit this wall. And plus you have to account for the door handle. So now we need even more space. So we always recommend the minimum 1¼ inch variance when you were ever adding doors connected to a perpendicular wall or greater. This wall here, the same thing applies. This wall, I'm going to change the properties on this module here. I'm going to right click this T mod, go into my attributes, and now I'm going to create a 1 inch variance instead of a 1¼ So instead of 1¼ we'll add a 1 inch variance. We'll select OK and OK, apply it OK. I'm going to right click on the module, resize width, and now I can make a 1 inch variance instead. Now, when would I use a 1 inch variance? I would use a 1 inch variance if I had cabinet drawers. So I'm going to go ahead into my parts and drawers, and I'm going to add a bunch of drawers here. All doors and drawers have a half overlay spec. Oops, let's move that over. There is my bookshelf. These cabinet drawers, when we open these drawers, I'll grab my annotating tools. When we open these drawers, sometimes, depending on the back wall, depending on how severe and bowed it is, this cabinet door front might hit this wall here. So we want to give it sufficient space in the event that the cabinet door front hits the perpendicular wall. Whenever we're making a reach-in closet, it's always best to make drawers in the middle module so we can avoid this issue. But in some instances, it won't apply, and they do really want a cabinet drawer connected to the wall. So therefore, a 1 inch variance is the bare minimum. And for doors, we have a 1¼ inch minimum. So a quick recap. Most dealers do a 1/4 inch variance off the left and right walls, standard practice. If you have doors, we're going to have a 1¼ inch variance or greater. And if you have a cabinet door, and we're going to make a 1 inch variance or greater for drawers with fronts. So you can see the different types. So we have a 1/4, 1¼ and a 1 inch variance, depending on the application, depending on what it is. standard practice quarter, cabinet door 1 1/4, doors with front 1 inch. Now that we have our variants, we got to add our fillers in there. To add our fillers, we can go double click our categories, double click on parts, and underneath parts, we have 5 subsections. At the very bottom of parts, we have fillers. We have filler standalone and filler. If I use a filler, the filler is going to connect itself to the panel that I want to drop it to. Fillers will always be 3 inches or greater. Fillers are always going to be 3 inches wide regardless. So fillers are always 3 inches wide. If this panel is 83 15/16, we will give you an 83 15/16 filler. So to add a filler, we're going to left click filler, drag it into the elevation. There's no edge banding to this at all because we're going to be scribing it right to the wall. I'm going to drag it anywhere in my elevation view. Once I see my magnet, I'm going to let go of my mouse. And now I'm moving my mouse. You can see where it's trying to attach itself to. We can put one on the very far left. There it is. And you can see it's going to go over the actual perpendicular wall. We're going to left click once. We're going to drop it in. And you can see that we have our filler here. And we have our collision because obviously we're going to be colliding with the wall. But we know that's going to happen, and the installer will have to use a table saw and cut the filler, silicone adhesive it, and whatever they'd like to do with it. Same thing on the right-hand side. Even though this is a 1 inch variance, let's go ahead and add a filler and drag it in. Once I see my elevation and magnet, and drop it in, left click once. I have my collision, which is what we want. And we have our 3 inch wide, 83 15/16 filler. If the module was shorter, then we will give you a shorter filler. If you wanted a long filler and you don't know where to place it and you just want to have fillers just in case for installers, you can use a filler standalone. You can drag it in and you can drop it wherever you'd like using the top view. So let's just say that I just wanted a part. We can go to filler standalone. We can drop it right here. And I'm going to right click the filler, left click on attributes, right click, and now underneath variables, if a filler standalone is the only one where you can change the widths. Right now it's 6 15/16, which is the greatest filler width that you can get. We want a 3 inch filler. And then now we can indicate how high we want it. We can make it 45 inches or greater, 95 1/4, and then they can just use these pieces however they would like, as an example. Click on OK. And now I've got my filler. This is 95 1/4 by 3 inches wide. So there's the different types of fillers that you can use. Now, we highly suggest and recommend not adding a filler that has a variance of 1 inch or less. It's very difficult for installers to cut a very precise filler using our particle board system. So we always recommend a 1 inch variance or greater, and then you can add a filler. If you have any questions using our catalog Perfect Fit Closets in the 2020 design program regarding variants or fillers, please do contact us at support@perfectfitcanada.com.